Hello and welcome to the circus.
My game with the cinema, with the big picture, rhyme letters like the holy scriptures. Looking at the sky, got the scoop like the Big Dipper. White ripper, head ripper. About to kick it off like a slipper. Cold flow like the winter master, like splinter net clipper. Proud to be the sender, far from a beginner. Homemade like grandma's dinner. Always fat, never getting thinner. Deep thinker, cheap drinker, heat seeker, beat eater, bass beater. Smoking mics like cedar. Third eye like a mind reader. Beat feeder, take it to the cleaners. I never drag you through the dirt like the street sleeper.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is Wildcard Wednesdays. This is a special edition of the Fantasy Football Joker where we sit down once a week with a content creator in the fantasy football community to ask them about their lives, what drove them to begin creating content, and so much more. Before we get into it, please go join our community and become a content creator yourself. Or if you're just looking to interact with some fantasy experts and maybe a joker, go sign up to fantasyfootballadviceforum.com. You can use the promo code Joker420 to get 10% off. You get access to exclusive content, including a bunch of my silly articles that are only available on the site. And you can interact with a great community, like I mentioned, of content creators, including myself and a bunch of other awesome people, including our guest today. We have introducing Tracy-Gilroy Norton. Welcome to the show, Gridiron Gal.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you. And when I say we, I am, of course, talking about me and the voices in my head.
Oh, yes. Mine are very excited to be here as well.
So let's get into the basics. Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
I am originally from Northern Ireland. I do have an accent. You are actually the first person that I'll bring it out for. I'm going to do an entire segment on the show, the podcast with this. I think we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so I'm from Northern Ireland. My family all still lives there. Moved to the Bronx. Then was a Jersey girl for a while. And now I'm back in New York.
Okay, well, I mean, that's already like a huge journey.
Right? I know.
So, I mean, did you grow up in Ireland or?
I was 7 when we left, but then I went back every summer for the entire summer and holidays and all of that. So, and, you know, all my cousins, it's funny because I'm closer to my cousins there than some people are to their cousins that live here. And we're 3,000 miles away. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool because it's always somewhere I can go. You know, people take it for granted, but it's the most beautiful place on earth.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been, but some of my family history on my mother's side were like half or like a quarter Irish or something. So that's something my mom's always talked about is going to Ireland because it's like such a beautiful place.
Just make sure you go up north because that's where I'm from. We left because my norm was soldiers walking around with guns, and I came here and I was like, it's so quiet, and we moved to the Bronx. I mean,
which is crazy to think about because you're in the States and I'm in Canada, and so like the way that you feel is almost the way I feel like living here and visiting there sometimes.
I'd imagine, yeah.
So for you to think that that's the quiet place, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's very strange. But so now where I am is nice and quiet, thankfully. So
like, how did you get into fantasy football then?
So my dad always watched football when I was younger. I was always a Jets fan because my dad was a Jets fan, you know. But I never liked watching football because I didn't take the time to understand it. But I always played it with the boys, played softball, baseball, all of that. And then my dad unfortunately passed and the pandemic hit. And I was like, you know what? I kind of just wanted to be closer to him. So I started watching it. And found that it was super easy to learn. Like, can't believe I didn't do it sooner. And then I stumbled upon, I think it was Twitter, I'm pretty sure, where it was FanDuel talking about, well, you can bet on this and that. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. And ended up being pretty good at it. And then found Underdog and Spike Week and everywhere else. So yeah, no, I love it. And, every week I do my best ball, but then every week I do my individual. So it's funny because while you have a home team, you can also root against your home team, which is kind of strange. People don't quite get it. They're like, oh, you're just a wishy-washy fan. I'm like, no, you have no idea.
No, I'm from Canada, so I 100% identify with that because you can see I'm a Steelers fan. And that's where
I love that
from my dad. I grew up a Steelers fan.
Yeah,
but 100%. I'm like, I root for 32 NFL teams now because I root for my players on my fantasy team and in my pools and my bets. But you also touched on something there. I think on the surface, football can be viewed as a complicated sport because there's like so many moving parts.
Yep.
And I think to the casual fan that can sometimes be like a barrier of entry. But
absolutely,
it's not rocket science. Like it's really like
no. I mean, don't get me wrong. The plays, they still sometimes I can't call them out necessarily, but I'm getting there. But the whole concept and first down, all of that. I mean, it's super easy. You just have to pay attention. If you pay attention for one quarter, you'll pick it up. No problem,
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, it's like you've got the blockers, you got the receivers.
Yep.
A guy that runs the ball and a guy that throws the ball.
I mean, really, that's it.
And then the defense tries to stop them. It's like,
and they're the big giant guys. Hard to miss.
And I think sometimes like with the X's and O's, like it gets so overcomplicated that like at the end, it's a simple game at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think they try to overcomplicate it. And now with all these new rules don't get me started. I understand the whole safety aspect of it, but it takes the fun out of it. Trying to learn all of those for people is a little overwhelming, especially if they're not really into it, if they're just kind of watching it to watch it with their buddies or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
But if you're like hardcore where, I had, I think, 30 drafts done before the actual draft where they drafted actual players. And I had all the information and knew who I loved as a rookie and who was going to go where, hopefully. People kind of, they don't get it. They think I'm crazy.
And, I think it's evolved so quickly, even from when I started playing. And it's not like I'm some like aged veteran out here, but I've been playing fantasy for I think 8 or 9 years now.
Yeah, you were saying.
It's evolved so much from like when I started, where it was still very much like the workhorse running back was king and you had to draft running backs early and you always waited on the quarterback. And it's like, there were all these rules that are like non-existent now.
Well, I mean, even from like last year to this year, the amount of change with just different apps that have opened up and, now everyone's doing a best ball and now Underdog's doing an NBA best ball, which is so cool. But it's just they're constantly just bringing out new things. And, I love being able to go in and do like the bets at halftime because I find it so much easier. But, there's just so many more things that you can do now from 2 years ago. So I can't even imagine how it's going to be in a few years.
So it's kind of cool that you've seen like the Underdog journey through like from its iteration pretty much like through, because I only just started this year. This is my first year doing it, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's been only a couple years on Underdog, but just since then, they've gone through a huge change. I mean, they legit listen to their customers. They've sent me a couple of shirts, and I'm gonna do this whole thing with dogs and a raffle, and they sent me like 100 tennis balls with Underdog on it. They're a great company. Just their customer service is unparalleled. They're a great company, and
I
they're
literally
always
just won free swag that's like it's in the mail.
right.
They sent it to me, so I'm totally with you on it. Like I'm a convert to where it's like, and I don't
Yep.
use other, and I mean it's limited up here in Canada, and especially like I'm in Quebec.
Yeah.
It's tough to go with what I can and cannot use.
Right.
Like I tried using I think it was DraftKings in the past, and it doesn't work up here, or maybe not like in my specific region or something. But Best Ball Underdog ironically does. But where I'm from, if I was still living in Ontario, I would not be able to, because that's one of the only provinces.
Really?
Yeah, just like down there's like 4 or 5 states that haven't converted and they don't have Underdog. Ontario, ironically enough, because for us, that's like one of our main provinces because it's the most Americanized. It's the closest, like if you go to Toronto, it's going to be the closest thing to like being in America.
Right. I mean, I've been to the Hockey Hall of Fame. Canada is one of my favorite places on earth. I love Canada. Love it.
Mean, when people ask me like if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? I'd be like, I already live here. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I would.
Here.
I would absolutely. Well, plus it has a lot of English influences. You know, there's a lot of familiar foods that I would be able to get in Ireland that I can get there. So it makes it feel more like home too.
I mean, just like anywhere, it has its faults, but
I
like to call it like throwback America. Like it's the closest thing to like the innocent 90s of America before things just went to shit.
Where people were still nice to each other and you knew your neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, it's very like Andy Griffith here, where like I'll still go downstairs and get sugar from the neighbor when I run out.
Oh, that's awesome. That's how I mean, up here where I am, I'm my little community where it's close to the same, but most of it is not. Most people avoid their neighbors because they don't want to have a conversation.
Well, and I mean, so part of the problem, part of the issue, I guess, is like the population difference. I've said before too, I don't think people realize that in Canada, it's like we have so much more surface area and just so much more like country, but like a lot of it is uninhabitable. And so for the most part, like probably 80% of our population lives right along the border.
Oh my God, really?
Yes. Because like as soon as you go up, even where I live, like you go up 2 hours north and it's just trees as far as the eye can see. Like it's Canadian wilderness. You get lost in there, you're dead. Like there's no
helicopter finding you and all of that.
I know. And then up it's the territories. So that's where you get to like the actual like Eskimos and like the caricature version of
that would be so cool.
Like living with like. And I have friends who have done it. It's not for me, but
not for me either. I'd love to see it, but
that's why I'm saying like it's very small populations. They can't even get like normal like. And when I say delivery, I mean delivery of like goods and service to like a Walmart. Like if you want to order something on Amazon, like you can't get the same kind of delivery service as like the rest of the country.
Whereas I'm like, kids, what do you want for dinner? And I'll DoorDash it.
Yeah.
You know, it's very different.
Me, where I live, I'm only 30, 40 minutes north of Montreal. So it's still very civilized where I am.
That's nice. It's a nice area. I absolutely love it. I would love to move there.
But we can get a little bit silly. We'll start with a light one. I like to play Dinner Party. So it's any NFL guest in history.
Kelsey.
So it can be
Kelsey.
Travis Kelce is going to be number one. So who are going to be the other 2 Kansas City Chiefs that you're going to invite to your dinner party? And what will
Mahomes, but only if his wife doesn't come.
Oh my God.
I cannot listen to that woman speak. And if she asks for pictures, no.
So what if it's okay? So dinner party, but it's you get we'll give you an extra guest, but it's going to be you get Mahomes, you get Kelsey, but you also have to take his wife and his brother.
Oh, I'll take his brother all day. Are you kidding me?
His brother's just out here doing dances.
Have you heard their podcast? It's hysterical.
No, I honestly, I haven't.
One of their podcasts, they talk about a candle. You have to. Oh my god, they are so funny. They're so funny.
I'm not really like, so I'm more of an outside view looking in, and I think this happens where it's like, so with the Steelers, I'm plugged in. I pretty much like know for the most part what's happening with the team, yada yada yada. There are times where it's like outside of fantasy, I don't know what's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs and like what kind of like. I know Kelsey's got that podcast with his or the show with his brother. I've literally never seen it, never heard of it, never listened to it.
Hysterical.
It's outside of my purview in a sense of like I'm insulated being where I am. So it's like if I don't go seek things out, sometimes it's easier for it to escape me than like, for most people.
Whereas me, I'm like NFL, then on Twitter, then I go to Underdog, then I go to Spike Week. Then I go to this and that and this to check what all the news is. I have my notifications and my updates. Ridiculous.
So, but the Chiefs are ultimately like your team. Like,
love them.
How did that come about? Because you said you initially said like the Jets.
And I still love the Jets.
Oh, how did the Chiefs really like? How did you become enamored with the Chiefs in particular?
The first year I got back into it, I was obviously watching Red Zone because what else would you watch on a Sunday? And there's nothing else.
I don't even watch. I'll admit this. I do not watch games on Sunday. I only watch Red Zone, and then what I do is
there's commercials.
I watch the condensed games of the good games the next that night and or the next day. Like I don't watch these. On occasion, I'll throw on a live game. It's usually a Steelers game just to kind of get like that feel of it. But for the most part,
I can't not watch a game if they're on. So I'll still watch like the Sunday night game, the Monday game, the Thursday game, and then the condensed games throughout the week so I can see like the full. Because there's nothing worse in Red Zone than them going to a play and they're like, and let's replay it because you missed it, and then they start to do it and then they cut off to something completely different and they're not even in the red zone. Like, come on. Drives me nuts. And then Scott Hansen's trying to catch up.
I usually will have like a game on and Red Zone going at the same time.
Nice. Yeah, I'll watch everything on my phone so I know in real time what's happening. But yeah.
Okay.
But so I was watching. So I was watching everything. I was watching, all getting back into football, getting back into everybody. Obviously, Jets, and just the Chiefs were just like killing it. Like there was just, but they just, as far as team camaraderie and all that, they just kind of clicked more than everybody else. They were, just all about showing everybody support and whatever. And the more I watch, the more, and you can't not love Mahomes, and Kelsey is Kelsey. So yeah, and just started learning more and more about him, and I was like, it looks like I converted to a Chiefs fan, but still love my Jets. I have my Aaron Rodgers jersey,
So I will shout out the one guy on the Chiefs, and it's funny because my neighbor is a bit of a Chiefs fan as well. And it's for one player and one player only. We stand for Laurent Duvernay-Tardif.
Just
and
because
I'm the only one who is going to pronounce his fucking name correctly.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
That is.
Oh my God.
I think he's a. I can't remember if he's a guard or a center, but he plays offensive line for the Chiefs. So I'll shout him out because he's from Mont-Saint-Hilaire, Quebec.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Love it. Well, yeah. Noah Gray I'll tell you a quick story. Noah Gray will always be one of my favorites. I did a cameo I don't know. Do you know what cameo is?
Yeah, it's like the thing with like famous people send like happy birthdays and stuff.
So I, as well as watch their dogs, I babysit one of the sons of one of my clients in the morning. I get him on the school bus. He's older, like he's 11, but it was his birthday, and I had Noah do a cameo, but he missed it, right? So then it
Okay.
was like, oh, fine. So lo and behold, I get a text message from him, to my phone saying how sorry he is that he missed it, that he's going to personally reach out and send me a video within the next day or two. So I wrote him back, and he wrote me back and was like, thanks for loving the Chiefs or whatever. And I get a 5-minute video the next day at his house. He's showing me his dogs. He went completely above and beyond. It was nuts. And then I sent him a message back, and I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to message you. And he wrote back and goes, it's fine, this is my personal number, but he's like, if you ever want to chat, just send me a message. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, you're amazing. So he'll always be my favorite.
I always think of John Madden in those situations as just like, and I think of it just like as a benchmark of like the kind of down to earth person that
you wish
try
they
to
could all be.
aspire to be, because I struggle with that really. Like, I'm not always a people person, and I definitely have like my barriers up a lot of times, and especially in public I struggle. And
I think we all do to a point.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I think that's one of the things where I try to work on that. And especially like, so I mean, getting kind of off topic on topic, and usually I avoid like football analysis during these things, but the hot topic right now is the whole should running backs be paid debate. And look, exactly the feeling that you just embodied and showed and personified is exactly how I feel every single time it comes up, because it's just like the amount of insane negativity. Like, I understand if you want to stand for billionaires and argue that running backs shouldn't be paid. And look, the analytics guys I'll never agree with. I always say the whole reason they call me the fantasy joker is because I don't give a shit about spreadsheets, and I never will. And
I'm all about my gut.
Of like a heart, and like I go off my heart more than my head.
Absolutely. I'm all about gut. All about it. That's why, like, I say all the time, my motto is, if I want some, I take some. Because if I don't look at ADP, I hate the people that just go like they put everything in order and they just take the top one. Cannot stand it. But
the whole advanced analytics crowd is like, it's too much. It gets to a point where it's like, and what I hate is like, okay, that's fine if you want to rely on those numbers. I rely on the intangibles, which are literally not measurable. That's why they are intangible.
Right. I mean, I do go based on the numbers as well, but you can't. There's just things you have to take so many other things into account. And like you said, I'm all about gut and how it feels. Like, there's just
like the prime example for me was I hit on Jamal Williams, not because I was like looking at like the team and the this and the stats and the ADP and the It was literally like I watched Hard Knocks and I saw like this is a blue guy. This is a heart and soul of the team guy, and they are going to lean on him when the going gets tough. And that's the kind of like intangible thing of like, who does a coach rely on in certain situations when, backsides get tight, knees get sweaty, and it's like those things aren't measurable by like advanced analytics on percentages on fucking third down. And
great example. Did you watch Quarterback yet on Netflix?
No, I haven't. I've been seeing it all over. It's ablaze on Twitter, but I haven't seen it yet.
So I only watched the first 20 minutes. I'm going to watch more later. But within the first 20 minutes, Kirk Cousins, I fell in love with him. So down to earth, so positive, just but you'll absolutely love him when you watch it.
I already love Kirk as like a person. I've never been like huge on him as like and when I say a quarterback, I'm just talking about for fantasy, because this is the other thing I hate, this whole thing of like we can't parse fantasy and real life quarterbacks anymore. There's no like, it's like if the guy's not top 5 elite, he sucks. It's
I know.
it's so ridiculous.
I know.
Kirk Cousins is an above average starter in the NFL and has been for like a decade. And like, give the man his due and his respect. Now for fantasy football,
completely agree.
Like, I don't usually go for him because he has what I call negative spike weeks, where it's like he's very consistent for the most part, but then unfortunately, like when he has a bad game,
right,
it hurts you bad in fantasy. So like, and he does it actually more often than you would think, where it's like last year, actually for the last 2 years, this was like a thing I threw out on Twitter. He has not gone over 400 yards.
I know.
For more than 2 games, but for 7 games last year, he was under 25 fantasy points, and that was in Scott Fishbowl with like there's no negative scoring and it's inflated for quarterbacks. So it's just like when you put that into like a real league perspective, it's like, but it's like all that gets away from like he is like a real life excellent quarterback. When you talk about like a dude that they've been able to attach the starting job to for like 5 to 10 years, and he's succeeded, because again, it's like if you don't win a Super Bowl, you've had no modicum of success. It's like this whole weird thing.
I know.
All these tropes that came from the NFL get like watered down to the fans, and it's hilarious to me when it comes up, but a lot of it comes up in negativity. So this is a very long-winded way of saying, how do you deal with not just negativity like online and like from fans, and obviously getting into being a content creator is something we all are gonna have to deal with at some point, but just like life in general, like shitty bosses, negative people, like friends being like, oh, why are you doing this? Why? Just what's your go-to, I guess, to be like, break out of a funk and get through that.
I mean, I can't even lie. I used to be not as positive as I am now. Once my dad got sick, it kind of changed my whole perspective on life and everything. So now what I try to do is, and my kids actually do it too, I go up to random people on the street and I'll compliment them on their outfit or their hair, or I'll like pay for the person behind me at the gas station, and I won't tell them. I'll just be like, can you add their groceries on? I pay, and I just walk out. So, if you do things like that, it just boosts your mood naturally. So I try to get out of a funk that way. But here's the thing. No matter what you do, someone will always think it's wrong and someone will always think it's right. So you just have to do whatever you think is right for you, because you'll always be wrong to someone, always. You know what I mean? So why would you listen to the people? Why do we put so much more faith in the one negative comment than we do in the 10 positive ones that we get? Like people can tell us 10 positive things and it takes that one negative comment to just completely ruin our day. But why do we let it ruin our day? Just don't.
No, and I think me personally,
it's
I'm
hard.
lucky where like I'm built for it in a sense of like, first of all, I just like, so I get, I'm like it's like a weird thing where it's like, I don't give a fuck what people think.
But at the same time, you do.
No, it's what they do though that really like what a person does and how a person acts like really does get to me. Of like, so like things like rudeness, things like not being considerate, and just like, and that goes for like anything from like when you're having arguments online about football and fantasy football, especially, which is like silly to begin with, because it's like at the end of the day, we're really all guessing here.
We're not the ones making the $10 million, guys.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like it's really silly to get like heated arguments and be like, "You're dumb, you don't have a brain." But like the whole thing of like I don't give a shit about like, again, what people think about me. But then like when I see like people acting out or acting inappropriately, like for some reason, like in my brain, it just like compounds like more than it should, and it's those things that I tend to like take personally, even though I shouldn't. And it's like it's so much worse when I'm in public in like a busy place where it's like this dude cut the line, and then this dude's acting like an asshole to the cashier.
I
and
understand that
this
completely.
guy is like just fucking like not even paying attention, and there's like a huge gap between him and the next person in line. It's like every little action that people do where they're not acting correctly,
or when they're chewing with their mouths open or talking in the movie theater,
all that kind of shit. So that's the stuff that really fucking grinds my gears.
Yes, and then the problem is that you can't say anything, right? So and especially if you're having a bad day, it just keeps. But here's
I internalize, and it's like I need to get over that negativity in a different way, where it's like the guy online that's just like yada yada. I'm like, and I literally had this earlier where it's like I said my piece, and you're just going in circles now, and I'm not going to follow you.
Exactly.
I'm not the dog that's going to chase his tail.
You just got to stop. If you stop,
I saw 15 more notifications of him and another guy arguing, and I just was like, I'm good. I said
because that's what they want. They want to argue, and like, my job is it almost makes it impossible to stay in a bad mood. So be a dog walker. You can't be in a bad mood when you're a dog walker. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean,
whenever I'm having a bad day, honestly, I go to the pups, and they just put you in a good mood.
So like I've never actually been a big pet person, but like I have a new dog now. And
really?
Yes, she is a mini husky. Her name is Rocky. She is a huge pain in my ass.
Oh my god, huskies are so cool.
And I love her. But it's like I feel like she's helping me in just the sense of like so my two biggest flaws that I always say, I'm angry and I'm lazy. Like I get real angry, like I was saying, at like the little inconsistencies of like when people are doing shit that they shouldn't be doing or acting out of sort, and it's just like, who raised you? That kind of stuff. Like I can ignore 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but over time it compounds, and then eventually the problem is I remember them all, and then when I blow up, I'm like, no, like
everything.
Everything comes out, and then I look like the crazy asshole.
Yes.
Right? So it's like you just end up looking bad, and it's like then I have to stop.
But no, you're like, just listen.
Like, damn it. No, I was in the wrong because I didn't, and then it's like you can't nitpick and correct behavior.
I know.
It's the whole thing.
I know.
But besides that, my other biggest flaw is that I'm lazy, and the dog really helps me with that because it's like I'm supposed to do daily exercise and like move around and shit, and I definitely would not do that a lot of times if it wasn't for her. And that gets into some motivation besides just like the dogs, obviously. Like what gets you on the grind? What's the motivation? And like especially the days where you're just like, oh fuck, I don't want to do this. Like what do you find gets you through that?
So I like March of 2020, I was like 100. I guess now it's like 130 pounds heavier than I am now.
Okay.
And then I started walking more, and then walking more dogs and doing all that. So it's kind of it's like keeping up with that, and I don't really have many of those anymore. I used to every day. I mean, I did. I used to lay around all day and do nothing because it was great. I could. And then I didn't want my kids to see me being this just like lazy human being. So that was obviously a big inspiration. I was just unhealthy, and as it started coming off, then I started wanting to do it more and more. And now I'm kind of just like happy because I can get up and move around. So I don't really have too many of the, I don't really want to do this days, thankfully. I think, but it's a whole mind shift. Like my entire mindset has changed as far as I don't consider it like having to exercise now. It's just work, but it's fun work because I love it. So I don't really think of it as exercise. Like I'll park now. It's crazy. I park in the last spot of the grocery store so that I can walk all the way up. And I used to be one of those people that laughed at those people. I was like, God, they're so pretentious, who parks at the end just to walk more. But now I walk like 130 miles a month. It's crazy. So if you start, the dog is great. It's not even great in the sense that you have to get up. It's great in the sense that when you are lying there and you're anxious, that you can. I find there's something about petting a dog. It just calms you down immediately, or hugging them or just being around them in general. It just makes you feel better. So having a dog for all those moments and then being able to get up and go out and you do it more and more, it just becomes second nature. It takes 21 days to make a routine.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest thing is like you have to, and I've struggled with that is like I'm very flip-floppy with my what I would call like a mind shift where it's like I can get myself into it for a couple weeks, but then the gamer in me takes over, like whatever it is, it's like there's or just like I'm working and recording and like didn't have time. It's like there's just always something. Life comes up and you find excuses. And
then I think we put too much pressure on ourselves too. People say, okay, I'm going to do 3 days this week. I'm going to walk. And then if they don't walk for 3 days, they get down or they don't like thinking about having to do it. Just don't put the pressure on yourself. If you go for a walk, you go for a walk. Because you'll find that if you don't put the pressure on yourself, you'll be like, you know what, I'm going to just go out for 5 minutes. If it's 5 minutes, then tomorrow it might be 10, Just take the pressure off. I also didn't stop eating. If I want an entire cheesecake, I eat an entire cheesecake. I just do. But that works for me. It may not work for other people, but for me, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, so that's like the weight thing is just for me has always been like a fluctuating thing, but that's I wrestled in high school and cutting weight and gaining weight rapidly was like it's like a normal thing, and still to this day is a habit I struggle with where it's like I always know in the back of my head if I just go real hard for a month, I can cut 30 pounds anytime I want because I know how.
Which is not the happiest.
It's terrible. It's real bad for your body, but I know I can do it. And then the problem is like, I can maintain that for 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. But eventually the problem is I just, inevitably slide back.
But I think it's just learning to be happy in wherever you are at the moment. That's a big thing too.
Well,
you can't, the what ifs, if I lose this or if I win this fantasy league or if I get this place or you can't live in what ifs because you're never going to be happy because there's always going to be another what if, or when I get there.
And that was the one thing that I think helped me change so I may not be like going hard where it's like I'm going to be like coming out looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger or anything, but I've got this baseline now where it's like, so I really hate going to the gym, and I always have. Even when I was in high school and playing football and wrestling, I absolutely hated doing weights. But I actually like surprisingly enjoy cardio and I guess it's called plyometrics, shit like push-ups, sit-ups.
Yeah, yep.
Like natural workouts. I call them Rocky workouts because in my head, I'm like, dun, 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 dun.
Yep.
So it's like
Climbing the stairs.
yeah, that kind of shit I'm really into, and it's like that stuff I'm able to do where it's like that's fun for me to
Right.
go out like for a run.
It's not like a workout.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's less work, and so it's like you find those things, you make the mind shift over time, and it's like at the very least, I'm like maintaining a physical baseline where it's like I'm not going to balloon or anything, but I'm also like over where I should be, and I know if I work real hard, I can get that down. But for the most part, I don't. I just maintain the baseline.
Well, yeah, because it's more fun to eat chips in bed and watch TV. Come
exactly.
So, that's what I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with this.
Speaking of having fun, let's transition into a topic a little more fun.
Let's go.
A two-parter question. So first, I need to know, what is your least favorite musical artist and or band?
Oh, man.
Like as a default for this question, so I'll read the question to you. Okay, you think of who it is that is the least favorite. Now, as the default, and I am going to admit that I like this band, but this is the internet, like, you know, the band that sucks.
Nickelback?
Exactly. So I'm going to read this question.
I mean, I like some of their music.
I
can't
it's one of my guilty pleasures for sure. I think first of all, I think it's hilarious. I love doing the whole joke of like, look at this photograph. So like that kind of stuff just makes me laugh. I'm an idiot that way. But I just genuinely like, I grew up in that era of like alt rock, and I just like genuinely like, and people
shit on. I have an Avenged Sevenfold t-shirt on, and I have
on Nickelback, but really they should shit on Creed is who they should shit on.
Okay, I do not. Yes, yeah. Oh, I do know who I hate.
Okay, so keep that in mind.
Okay,
I'm gonna still read the question. It's easier to read it though as Nickelback, so it's a long question. So strap yourself in. All right. You meet your soulmate. However, there is a catch.
Oh, God.
Every 3 years, someone will break both of your soulmate's collarbones with a crescent wrench. And there is only one way you can stop this from happening. You must swallow a pill that will make every song you hear for the rest of your life sound as if it's being performed by the band Nickelback. When you hear Avenged Sevenfold on the radio, it will sound to your ears like it's being played by Nickelback. If you see your favorite band live, every one of the tunes will sound like it's being covered by Nickelback. When you hear a commercial jingle on TV, Nickelback. If you sing to yourself in the shower, your voice will sound like vocalist Chad Kroeger performing a cappella. But it only sounds this way to you. So it's not like you can like go on tour as a Nickelback impersonator.
Right.
You still sound like you to everybody else, but to your ear, all music from now on is Nickelback. So would you swallow the pill? And
I mean, I feel like after a while you'd get used to your collarbone being broken, right? No?
I'll nurse you back to health. It's every 3 years. You're fine.
Because you have no idea how much music influences my life.
Both collarbones too. You got to remember, it's not just one they're both. So they're just like no arms for however long. How long does a collarbone take? Like 2-3 months?
I don't know. Wait, is every 3 years? Is that what he said?
Yeah, every 3 years. And you gotta think too, like over time, right? So it's like
I know
the first time is like
gonna break them down
in a month or two, but by the third or fourth time, it's gonna be.
Well, what age do I meet said person?
Huh?
At what age do I meet this person? Because if we're like
right now, basically.
All right,
like,
so we're old.
All right,
I'm gonna go with the collarbone because it's not mine. If it was mine, it may change my answer, but I'm going to have him just man up. I'll take care of you. I can't do Nickelback for the rest of my life.
Nope. So I'm curious though, what was going to be the one that you would have said was your most hated?
Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh wow.
Cannot
Really?
stand them. Not one song. Cannot stand.
California. Did
Hate,
you know that we're from California?
yeah, because you said it 17 times in the first
That's-
1 minute of the
There's
song.
like a meme video, like an old one on YouTube, and that's literally like it's Red Hot Chili Peppers. Every song is about California.
I hate them so much.
Makes me laugh.
Hate them.
All right. Well, we'll go into another silly one, and then we'll back it on up to. I got one more serious one, and we'll get you on out of here. So, at long last, somebody invents the Dream VCR. And this machine allows you to tape an entire evening's worth of your own dreams, which you can then watch at your leisure.
Oh
However, the inventor of the Dream VCR will only allow you to use this device if you agree to a strange caveat. When you watch your dreams, you must do so with your family and your closest friends in the same room. They get to watch your dreams along with you. And if you don't agree to this, you can't use the Dream VCR. Would you still do this?
No.
Yeah, 0% chance for me.
No. Because, yeah, no.
You know what it is? I honestly would not give a shit about like literally anyone except my kids. I think my kids, I'd be like, I don't need my kids to see whatever weird dreams I happen to be having that night.
Yes, if Kelsey is involved,
wild. So I think it's the kids, and getting like back to like, so the serious question is like motivation. I think for every parent, obviously it's kids, and that's like been the thread through so far. All of these interviews that I've done, because I've done them all with parents, it's like obviously your kids are your motivation, and they also like put you in the bubble in a sense of like, you to a degree, it's like, you know, I would love to care about all these outside issues going on in the world, but at the end of the day, I don't, because I care about my kid, and I just need to make sure like I keep this kid alive.
Yeah, and I teach them how to be a good human being.
Yeah, and so like, so I mean, I've been very lucky where like, because I was an asshole as a kid. I'm always the first to say it. Like
I could imagine. I can only imagine.
Oh, I got suspended like 20 times. Like I feel sorry for my mother nowadays.
Oh my
I was
God.
like on the expulsion list. I lost recess for a whole year. Yeah, it was a whole ordeal. I was like the worst. I chilled out for high school, because by high school it was weird, because like the older I got, so my problem was always really struggled with authority from a very young age. Of like, and it was like, if I didn't respect you as a leader, like I couldn't follow you. And more so, I wasn't gonna be like acquiescing to whatever weird fucking like rules that you were trying to like imbue on people.
Right.
Where,
right.
Like, other
Just
people,
because.
Yeah. Where other people are very quick to accept, I'm always the first one to be like, why?
Question.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what
I
teach my that's what I teach my kids to do. Question everything.
Yeah. And
like,
so
if you don't like it, by all means, question
that like got me in a lot of trouble going through grade school. And then by the time you get to high school, it's like the teachers, it's a little bit more of a working relationship. And by the time I was in college, I remember being the only college student in my entire program that treated it like a business relationship. Everybody else was still like in that mindset of high school and elementary, where it's like the teacher is the authority and we have to respect the teacher. And in my brain, I'm like, no, I'm paying you. I'm paying for this seat. That means you are beholden to me now. Your ass belongs to me in terms of like, you need to meet my educational
expectations.
My expectations to make sure that I am getting what I paid for here. And I like literally got into beef with two teachers, one for being late and one because his course material was lacking.
Oh my God. That's
so like, it's weird because it's like, in a lot of ways, I'm very chaotic and don't care about like order and structure, but like there's very basic things of like, So like in a fantasy football league, for example, if you're going to ask for money and run that league, you need to run that league in a
Yes.
proper fucking way
I
with
agree.
like rules and regulations and visibility.
Yep.
And
Trades
a
and
certain
all
amount
that.
of professionalism, right?
Yes.
So what that gets to is values. Those are values that people either have or don't have. And this is a question I love asking fantasy managers is what kind of values do you recognize in yourself and in your own life that you just already have, but that then play out in your fantasy football picks? And so I think for both of us, we had already touched on, we definitely go by heart more than head, right?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. 100%. I'll go down the list of players, and they might be at the top of the list, but the fifth one down, just for whatever reason that day, I get like a gut feeling on, and I'm like, they're going to have a good game. And generally I'm not saying I hit all the time, but I came out on top, so far every season, because you know how they show you their reportings and stuff. It's cool. But yeah, no, I everyone tells me that I shouldn't stick to my gut, but it's worked so far. Why would I switch it up now? Because I start switching it up, I'm not gonna win. I go on stack. I love my stacks. I love a good stack. If the Scott Fish Bowl, everyone's getting on me because of my Lions, but I have pretty much every Lion on my team, and they're not even my team. It's hysterical, but yeah, it's all about gut feeling, heart, just being a good person. I'll draft people if they're in the news and they've had like a really good story comes out, or like when he got back to me on Cameo, I was like, well, buddy, I gotta stick you on my team this year, and
okay, so I do shit like that all the time too, and I'm so happy to like hear that aspect of fantasy football.
Totally.
Two of my guys this year, for exactly what you just said, John Mechie and Foster Moreau. I literally
Foster Moreau
just want to see them succeed
so badly.
I know.
Oh my god, I know.
I literally took Foster Moreau with my last pick in Scott Fishbowl. Just because
I'm right there with
it's funny. I have John Mechie also. I took him a little bit earlier, but with him, I see like more of a clear path to like he missed his rookie season and they're trying to run out the corpse of Bobby Trees as a starting wide receiver. So he has an opportunity, but with Foster Moreau, it's like you've got Jawan Johnson already there. They're probably splitting targets. Probably not fantasy relevant, but I don't give a shit.
No, I'm
it's a feeling thing, and it's like fuck with the last bench spot on my roster that's probably not going to serve me any purpose. I often will. I use it as a mascot position, so I often will.
Well, because in my mind, I'm like, he'll feel me rooting for him. Like he'll feel it,
I root. My other big problem is if I get too on a joke or on a name, I will end up overdrafting that player. So one of those here for me is a Banaconda.
Oh my god,
Banaconda don't want none of this.
I do the same thing. See, I'm the same way with names, but what I do is I don't even call them the right names. Like that Okajawa kid, I have no idea Oken. Oh God, you know who I'm talking about. I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
I actually don't even know, unless you mean the Titans tight end there.
Yeah.
That's it, Chigoziem Okonkwo.
I call him like Okinawa. Right? I have all different names for him at all times, but I love him.
My other one that I really love is the Rams wide receiver, Puka Nakua. I love it. Puka Nakua.
But they never pronounce it right. They never pronounce it.
I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but it sounds hilarious to me.
It does. It sounds great, right? I also like Dicker the kicker.
Dicker the kicker. That's a good one.
Dicker the kicker.
Actually, this year is Lutz. Because first of all, I think New Orleans is going to score more. So it's like sometimes there's a little method to the madness where it's like, I think New Orleans is going to score more. I think Carr is an upgrade over Andy Dalton. I think Lutz is
completely agree.
going to have a bit of a rebound season this year. So it's
Yep.
like it makes sense. But the only real reason I'm doing it and drafting him as my kicker is just so I can be like, you want to get Lutz? Let's get Lutz.
My God, we are so similar. It's hysterical.
It's dumb shit like that makes my day. And
and then because what I'll do for that is
Oh.
I kind of almost call that like a throwaway best ball. So like that's the one that I won't expect necessarily too much from, but that's like I'll put like a little heart next to it on the symbol because that's like my gut feeling one. And then I'll do, I think I have like 52 of them currently.
Yeah, I'm like, I've got I'm over. I gotta be getting close to 100 by now, but it's funny because there's this guy online who's got like 3,000 of them or something.
I know.
He's the one I'm showing my wife like I'm not that bad. Look at this guy.
There's always somebody worse than me.
There's always someone out there.
I don't know how you keep track of that.
Out there. That's a perfect segue. Let's wrap this whole shindig up with shout outs. So just give me some shout outs. Let's start with your favorite like content creators in the space. Just off the top of your head, people that you like. So because I'm kind of an idiot and especially don't rely on like spreadsheets myself, I will lean on people that are much smarter than me. And I always say,
I love the Fantasy Pros guys.
Surround yourself with people smarter than you. So Fantasy Pros.
I love Fantasy Pros. I mean, it's all like my here. I'll go into my podcasts and I'll tell you because it's basically all my podcasts is all the guys that I listen to. There's also though, on Twitter, there's a guy, he works with Underdog. Rodman is his Twitter name. I always go to him and look at his stuff. And I go to Chiefs Kingdom a lot. Okay. I'll do like hashtag because they always have up-to-date stuff. But yeah, my podcasts, they're basically consist of all of the top, fantasy football guys. I love the Spike Week one because they always are relevant. They always throw different things in there. It's not like the same stuff. Fantasy footballers, obviously.
That's my big one. That's honestly the only one I listen to anymore because and I got to start adding some more other ones. But for me, I prefer like entertainment first, stats analysis second.
Me too. If once the stats come out, I'm done. I'm because you can only say the same stats so many different ways.
Yeah.
I like them when they're telling stories or they're catching up and doing all that. And they're big on that. I like, obviously I like Good Morning Football. So I'm always on there. And the Underdog, they have one. They have a podcast too, which is always good. And pretty much anybody associated with them. But now I'm finding all these new ones, like all the little guys. And the little guys are kind of the ones that I love the most because like they don't, it's not like all football, like, which is what I want to do. It's life and kids and kind of everything else. And I think that's what people want to hear. They don't necessarily, if they want to hear stats, just go on ESPN and listen to stats,
Like there's so many people that are so great with analysis and research, and I am never going to be one of those people.
Nope. Me neither.
That's why I had to very much find this niche, or I just, for me, this wasn't going to work like on a personal level. So this is really like more than even like any of the fantasy analysis or content that I've produced in articles and shows. This is the show that I love doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I love the community and like getting to bring on
the communities
creators.
I mean, I wish I had found it years ago. It's just the chat alone in the Scott Fishbowl.
That's actually what I was going to shout out. So I have like a guy in my Scott Fishbowl chat who go find him on Twitter, Drew DeLuca. he's like my polar opposite, where it's like he is very analytical and stats driven, but you need that. Like I love having the balance of
that.
Always he's a great guy, always remains respectful. We've had debates in the Scott Fishbowl chat where we've been on opposite sides, and it's always like super friendly, and that's what I love. I love being able to disagree, and I find myself quite often in the minority when like
that doesn't surprise me.
Actually, you know what? I'll because you're a Chiefs fan, you'll love this. I 2 years ago traded for Mahomes and Travis Kelce because I was on the Mahomes Kelce stack. I did that in a 16-man dynasty league because I was like the psychological edge of just looking across and seeing the Mahomes Kelce stack sucks. So I was like, I'm going to put those two together. And both trades that I made at the time that I made them were massive overpays. It was like, so Mahomes, and I took a bunch of nobodies. It was Hunter Henry, Brandon Cooks, Ronald Jones. Okay. So the other guy, the idea was he was getting an upgrade at every position except quarterback, but it's a super flex league. So he got Matt Ryan, Mark Andrews, Deebo Samuel, and Chris Carson. And none of that fucking mattered because Patrick Mahomes is the best damn quarterback in the league. And then I traded, it was Calvin Ridley, a first and a third. And I'm like this, I think draft picks are the most overrated asset in fantasy football. Trade them. So I got Mahomes Kelce stack, and I've been riding that for 2 years. Happy as a pig in shit.
Hell yeah. I mean, just the fact Kelce throws up how many more yards than Taysom Hill is crazy as well. But just Kelce is the best, and people that are coming out and saying, well, he's overrated, blah, blah, blah. He's only overrated if he's not on your team.
Yeah, exactly.
You have him on your team, you love him because you know he's the best.
Shout out to Chiefs Kingdom. We'll wrap it up right here. Tracy, thank you so much for being on the show. Super appreciate having you on. We'll have to get you on in the near future on the actual fantasy show, and we can then talk a little bit more fantasy analysis.
Yeah,
and as always, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Catch you all on the flip side.
Stereos of all types, spit rhymes tighter than zip ties, a fish fry, pussy rappers a lip dye, you made it like hentai, my energy fortifies, a generator from my core sharp, that precise, the bad best and like through competition like the Lancaster, taking up the first one, the next hit the man after, like John Wick and man of focus, but I'm sick of that off the Morgan dying of tuberculosis, with no treatment, with helpless hopeless, a million ways to die in the west, so I'm going through your mind like a bullet to the head, infected by the infection, infected with the sickness, you motherfucking